Welcome to From Data to Victory.
Hey, everybody, welcome into an all new episode of From Data to Victory with political strategist Fairalee Carrier, the founder of Republican Political Consulting LLC. I am your host, Mike Leon. Fairalee has been guiding candidates in Massachusetts and Texas through every stage of the campaign process. And today's episode is for anyone that's thinking about putting their name on the ballot for the very first time. Fairly, it's good to see you. Let me ask you a high level question here. What usually prompts that first conversation with somebody who's thinking about running for office? What do they tend to be looking for, or what are they sometimes unsure about?
Well, first, thanks for having me back, Mike. It's good to be back. Usually, it starts with a conversation amongst family and friends. Family members or friends will tell the candidate, you've got so many good ideas and so many good solutions. You should run for office. Or you're always complaining about, if you had the authority, what you would do if you had the authority, and you have so many good ideas, so you should just run for office. It usually starts like.
Let me ask you too, how do you help that candidate understand what's going to happen over the next few weeks, months, what it's going to realistically look like for them without overwhelming them in the process?
Well, what part of what I do as a consultant and a strategist is when I first meet a candidate for the first time during a consultation, I am applying some pressure during that first meeting, trying to make them feel a little uncomfortable because I need to see, how they react naturally to some pressure. And then I do always tell my clients that at the end, I was being a little difficult with you because I wanted to see how you would react to certain types of questioning. And I don't prepare any of my clients for that, but now they're all going to know. But but I do that because politics is pressure. So for people that want to get into politics, you have to have a wherewithal about you that's strong and that is resilient and that can take questions on the fly and take that pressure and turn it into something positive.
Very well said. Totally agree with that. So let me ask you about the early expectations part, especially tending to clash with like the day-to-day realities of their normal life. What kind of early expectations should people have early on, especially once the race begins?
Early expectations, reasonable expectations should be first to always focus on fundraising. A lot of candidates, they want to jump out here in our social media era. They want to jump out here and build a brand and get put themselves out here, digitally, where that energy and that focus really needs to be rerouted to the ground, to the people that you know in person in your daily life, seeing how much support you have on the ground, and are people excited about the notion of you being a representative, whether that be in your town, your city, your state, or at the federal level with Congress and Senate. So focus that energy on building a good ground campaign. Like, do you have the support of your local city? Do you have the support of local businessmen? Do you have the support of um, your own family and your friends? And then can you convert that into fundraising dollars? Because your ability to fundraise at the very beginning is key to the success of your campaign, because you're going to be constantly fundraising. So if people believe in you, if people will vote for you, they will donate to your campaign. So that's always what you got to hit the ground running with, as opposed to trying to create a brand of yourself or trying to create a presence online.
Great info. And let me ask you about, maybe you can give us an example of about a first time candidate that you worked with, and maybe some early lessons that you saw them learn early on in the process. Any of those things stick with you as an advisor?
Sure. So I did work with one candidate who was very passionate about a certain landmark in the city, and how offensive that landmark was in his opinion. And the landmark wasn't even geared toward him or his community. It was actually a cultural landmark that spoke more to, say, a Black or brown audience, and that he was a white man who found that the erection of the statue was very offensive. But me as a person of color, I wasn't personally offended by the statue, so it comes off as elitist or, out of touch perhaps. And when I tried to counsel him about that, he was just so obsessed with this particular erection in the city that he didn't see that it's not coming off authentic. It's one thing to have an opinion about something and you want to springboard a campaign off of that opinion, but if it's not landing even with someone that you're paying to maybe be your political consultant, who is of that group that the campaign is targeted to, then perhaps maybe you need to remix or revisit your approach and why your approach to your entire campaign. And he wasn't open to that, and I did not work with him, and he did not win his campaign. So I have a long list of people that have wanted to work with me. And if you don't agree with the feedback that I'm giving you, when I have experience in this realm, then we have a hard time working together. So I think a lot of candidates get excited. They're passionate about what brought them to run for that particular seat, and that passion sometimes can override logic. It can override strategy. It can override good advice that's being given to the candidate, and they don't win. And you have a lot of people that just spend their whole lives running for a particular office and they never win, and that's because they're not willing to change their approach.
Speaking of genuine and authentic, when candidates are talking about their reason for running, one of the things I always love to say is you want to practice, but you don't want to sound rehearsed. So what helps that story of their personal journey of why they're running connect with voters rather than them sounding rehearsed or even sounding political?
I feel that is an organic process, and it starts with the candidate being boots on the ground, knowing what his voters want, and then knowing how to relate to his voters with his own personal story or her own personal story. By the time an individual usually decides to run for public office, they're usually not in their 20s or in their 30s. They have a life story to tell. So, the voter wants to know, like, what is it about you that makes you relate to me? And the human condition is very predictable. We all go through the same things in life. We all go through similar struggles. So becoming vulnerable to tell your story, the parts that are embarrassing to you, is actually the most authentic way of connecting and telling your story, is telling the stuff that you're embarrassed about. Those are the things that really connect you to your constituents and make you look and make you come off authentic, because people will hear you on TV or they'll see you on some sort of platform, you telling your story. And as soon as you say something that they can relate to in their own life through being honest and authentic, you've probably got their vote. So
Mhm.
I always say to my clients that people may not remember what you say, but they will remember how you made them feel. So storytelling is so important, and you have to have the courage to tell the things that are embarrassing, tell this story about how you made a mistake and how you rose above it. All that stuff sounds really cliche and kind of corny, but it really is the human experience, and it really is what connects a voter to you or wanting to participate in your campaign.
Another thing that I'm sure you get asked a lot about or you've seen in your experience is maybe the fear of public attention, because it's not common for people that are new to it. How do you encourage them then to stay authentic, stay within themselves, especially when the light shines the brightest?
That is always really hard, especially after you win. I'd like to say that when I've worked with candidates who win, and there is a change in demeanor. There's a change in bravado. There's a change in presentation after you win, because you feel like, I did it. I'm here, and what I'm saying is right, and what I'm saying is non-negotiable. And that's when you start to lose touch with your voters. So keeping a very humble state of mind, always listening, and absorbing feedback that you get from meet and greets, from events on the ground. That is the best way to stay authentic to who you are as a candidate, because trust me, once you win any campaign, the money is going to come, the media is going to come, there's going to be a lot of attention on you as a candidate, and it can get very easy to lose yourself in all that attention. So you have to know who you are, and you have to know where your strengths and your weaknesses are.
Fairly, let me ask you about habits, mindsets. What kind of habits or mindset shifts have you seen that tend to separate those first-time candidates who stay steady from the ones who could potentially lose focus as the race evolves?
I think the habits of a winning candidate, in my experience, have been candidates who are very disciplined with their time. Being disciplined with your time is key. Especially once your campaign is launched, you file your paperwork and you've made your announcements, you're going to be pulled by so many different people who want to interview you, want to talk to you, and it's easy to forget all of that groundwork that I highly recommend every candidate do at the beginning for the first time, especially running, connecting with their voters on the ground, getting to know their constituents, and getting to know local businesses. All of that can be quickly taken away from a candidate with media influence, with being asked to speak here, speak there, appear here, appear there, and it's almost easy. It's easy, and people don't realize how easy it is that you can become a robot as a candidate. You rely on a stump speech, and you say the same thing over and over again, and it seems to get you fundraising dollars, it seems to get you claps, but it's not really who you are. So I'm always encouraging my clients to not have like a stump speech. Just talk to people, know your audience, and be yourself. And it seems easy to do, but it can be very hard the more attention that you get as a candidate.
Tons of examples in American politics of people repeating the same thing. Fairly, you know, as we land the plane on this first episode, for someone that's listening to this right now, they're planning a first campaign. Okay, what's a smart way to use their time that you would recommend before they announce to prepare themselves?
Obviously, of course, the smart thing to do is to hire a consultant, especially if you know nothing about politics. If you've come to this decision through family and friends, and you've garnered the courage to file your paperwork, and now you want to run, definitely the first thing you should do after you make the decision to run is to go to your local secretary of state or your township and get the voter data of your district, of your town, of wherever it is you're trying to run, so that you can see what has worked in the past and what has not worked in the past. One of the things that hiring a consultant like me or someone that's skilled like me, one of the benefits of it is that that's what we do for you as a candidate. We go and dig into all that data, and we, tell you what has worked in the past. We tell you what the trends are. We do an analysis of your jurisdiction, your race, and we go back at least 15 years or sometimes further back, however far the records are available to us. We get those and we do that analysis for the candidate. But if you don't hire a consultant, you definitely need to get into the data of your particular race and see what's worked in the past and what hasn't. I always say that tell candidates to start attending your city council meetings, or go to the capital in their state, and listen to proposed legislation at the state representative level, or start watching C-SPAN, start watching the congressmen and the senators on C-SPAN, and start listening to how governing actually works. So that way, when you're on the ground and you're talking to voters, you can give them realistic answers, and you can start to educate along the way of your campaign, letting your voters know, like, I can't promise you this because within this particular role, my only authority stops here. So, I agree with you that maybe we should end world hunger. But if I'm running for, mayor, I can only try to address hunger in my city, not the world. So you have to say these things sometimes to bring voters back to reality about what you can and cannot do should you win.
Yeah. Fairly, thank you so much for the time and insights around this topic. I truly appreciate it today.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone out there for listening to this installment of From Data to Victory with Fairalee Carrier. If you want to learn more about Republican Political Consulting LLC and how Fairalee helps first-time candidates build strong, data-driven campaigns, visit fairalee.com today. Thanks for tuning in. But before you go, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review, and comment, or share the episode with someone that's maybe thinking about running for office. As always, I'm Mike Leon. See everybody next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.